I want to describe offensively another variation of outside ashi that's going to deal with a bunch of problems my training partner is going to bring to me. So if my training partner knows this grip breaking sequence and they know to hide their heel with their knee outside the line of their ankle and hip, what you'll find is that you know the mechanics you want that we talked about in the first move, the first heel hook we went over, but man, they're hard to put in place, right? You're gonna get a training partner, you're gonna get their leg, just getting the heel is gonna be a war, right? Forget about getting the heel with like that pinky toe tendon where you want it. It's like, yeah, Eddie, I heard what you're saying, but that's pretty hard to get. And I agree with you, okay? So we talked about the end point I wanna get to, but we really didn't talk about how to get to it. And now I just gave your training partners a really good weapon to deal with you when you try to do this. So let's give the offensive player another movement. And we're actually gonna start from a pretty disadvantaged position. Although I can set this up even from this position, I'm gonna have my training partner come on top of me and smash me. So she's gonna drop this knee to the mat, and we're in this position here. This is one of my favorite offensive positions to play, and I adapted a lot. I lost my first match to Tenkinho in ADCC, and he really tore me apart in this position. He just kept throwing the leg drag. I tried to bring my shin apart. He kept tearing it. I bring my shin. He did this. And after about 10 times of doing this with Tenkinho, man, my legs were burning, right? But then our second match, I started using this variation of ashigarami. And if you watch it, you're going to have to watch really closely because I only spend a very short amount of time here before I'm able to get him off me, okay? And I use this flavor of ashigarami. So I'm showing you from a very disadvantaged position. We can set it up from a straight outside ashi as well. I just also wanted to give you a tool to deal with this common problem. And why I don't necessarily recommend my training partner coming on top like this, because of this counter. So first rule is I keep my legs locked and I keep my elbows in. Okay, if she gets a head and arm here, this is very bad. Okay, we're no longer talking about ashigarami. We're talking about how to defend an arm triangle to the back. Okay, so my elbows are in. The good news is that it's hard for her to close that distance because her leg's in between us. All right, just like in half guard, except it's harder for her to clear this leg. So it's not an easy thing if I keep my legs locked. If I open my legs, if I let her start hooking, right? So if she puts this knee on the mat and starts hooking over my legs, right? I could start getting in trouble where she starts hooking under, right, and passing. But as long as I keep my legs up, it's hard for her to do that. As long as I'm aware of that, it's her plan to weave out my legs. So I keep my legs tight, I keep my elbows tight. And now what I'm going to do, right, even if she's grabbing onto my head or pulling, I keep my elbows in, is I bring my foot onto her hip, and I'm going to use my hands to nurse it. Okay? So it looks like I'm giving up an estima lock of some kind here, but as long as my hands are on it when she goes for that, it's going to be hard. Okay? So I use my hands to put this foot on the hip, and then I use this foot to cross over. So it's still the outside foot crossing over the inside foot, except I'm on the hip. Okay? And now I have both legs to leg press her off me. So whereas before I was trying to turn my hips to turn them, and that was pretty weak, now I frame, I create distance, I get my foot on the hip, and I cross with this bottom foot to protect it. Now it's a leg press. And that's really hard for my training partner to stay on top of me with. Okay? And the best part about that leg press, from here, I go for this leg press, I keep my elbow tight. Look where her knee is. It's inside that line of the ankle and hip because of this mechanic here, because of where my feet are. Her knee can't go outside. When she tries to take her knee outside, it's impossible. And it's a leg press to expose the heel. So I take the same grip on the heel, but now that pinky toe tendon is really exposed. Okay? I can finish here. This is a finishing position. Or if we want to get just more reps in, right, I can practice the move we talked about where I shorten, I pinch, and close. Okay? Doesn't matter if I'm on my back, I use the same mechanic, making sure my knee's in line. It's a very powerful flavor of ashigarami. The reason why people were cautious about this is because this flavor is particularly vulnerable to grip breaks and counter leg locks. But the truth is, if the person knows the sequence we just went over before really well, every ashigarami is vulnerable to that. We might as well have an ashigarami that gives us an opportunity to attack. This also is the best way to get some heavy pressure off you if someone's smashing your outside ashigarami. So, the sequence as a whole again. My training partner comes up in a smashed outside ashi position. I'm careful to keep my elbows in, and I don't unlock my feet. Okay, I resist the urge. I always see people get here and they feel the pressure coming forward and they unlock their legs, and now you are in trouble. But as long as I keep my legs together and my elbows in, I'm okay here. In fact, I'm about to be winning. So I make sure I frame, I use my hands to get my foot on this hip. And this is not always easy. I might have to hand assist, I might have to push for a second, right? This takes not so much flexibility as movement and time. But you have all the time in the world, right? You're gonna be there for a while if you don't move. Then this foot crosses over the top. With both feet on, I push off, and then look at that internal rotation, right? Keep in mind, your training partner could turn here, could roll. If she does roll, we're in the same spot as long as my feet are in position. And look at that internal rotation, right? So I'm forcing it in the mechanic I want. I can hand assist to get that heel and that pinky toe tendon against my pec. I can finish from here. The mechanic's the same, closing my knee against her knee. Or I can bring my legs outside into that back heeling position. Okay? Let's give this a shot, guys. 1, 2, 3.